4. Underscore a voice underscore most important underscore. Hello. Is that the treasury? Underscore me underscore sweetly feminine underscore. Treasury speaking. Underscore AV, underscore, as if the end of the world was in sight underscore. I want to speak to the Prime Minister, degree OS Private Secretary. Underscore me, underscore the Prime Minister, degree OS Private Secretary is engaged. I can put you through to the whips, degree O office. Underscore AV underscore angrily underscore. I donned degree OT underscore want underscore the whips, degree O office. I want. Underscore me underscore one moment, please. Underscore a good many moments pass underscore. Underscore AV underscore menacing underscore. Hello. Hello. Underscore hello, underscore. Underscore me underscore sweetly, as if conferring some priceless boon underscore. Put underscore 3 underscore. Pennies in the slot and underscore turn underscore the handle, please. Underscore AV underscore spluttering underscore. Look here, put me through to the supervisor at. Underscore once underscore. Underscore me underscore very far off underscore. Supervisor speaking. Underscore AV underscore with suppressed passion, yet pompous withal underscore. Look here I degree OM. A member of parliament. I degree I've been. Underscore me underscore gently underscore. Do not shout into the receiver, please. Underscore AV underscore hello. I degree OMA. Underscore me, underscore do not say degree infinity hello, degree plus or minus. Underscore AV, underscore maddened underscore. What degree OS that? Hello. Look here I degree OM a member of Parliament, and I degree I've been trying for underscore half an hour underscore to get through to the Prime Minister, degree OS. Underscore me, underscore I am sorry you have been trrrubled. You are underscore thruff underscore now. Underscore AV underscore hello. Is that the Prime Minister, degree OS Private Secretary? Underscore me underscore quiet, weary, and competent underscore. Which one do you want? Underscore AV underscore hello. Sir Thingamajig speaking. I want to speak to the Prime Minister, degree OS. Underscore me, underscore yes, I heard that. But do you want the Principal Private Secretary, or the Assistant Principal Private Secretary, or one of the personal private secretaries? I mean, there are 47 of us altogether, and it makes a lot of difference. Underscore AV, underscore weakening underscore. I can't degree OT quite here. Perhaps you can help me. It degree OS. About. Underscore me underscore one moment, please. Here is the Prime Minister himself. Would you mind speaking to underscore him underscore? I degree OM rather busy. Underscore AV underscore awestruck underscore. Of course. Hello. Underscore me, underscore hello. The Prime Minister speaking. Look here, Jig, I want to have a word with you. Would you mind holding the line a moment while I speak to my secretary? Underscore AV, underscore fawning underscore. By all means. Their degree OS, no hurry at all. Asterisk. As far as I know the poor fellow is holding still. The genius of Mr. Bradshaw. No one will be surprised to hear that the Christian name of Mr. Bradshaw was George. Indeed, it is difficult to think what other name a man of his caliber could have had. But many people will be surprised to hear that Mr. Bradshaw is no longer alive. Whatever one thinks of his work, one is inclined to think of him as a living personality, working laboriously at some terminus, probably at the Charing Cross Hotel. But it is not so. He died, in fact, in 1853. His first book, or rather the first edition of his book, was published in 1839, yet, unlike the author, it still lives. He is, in fact, the supreme example of the posthumous serial writer. I have no information about Mr. Debrett and Mr. Burke, but the style and substance of their work are relatively so flimsy that one is justified, I think, in neglecting them. In any case, their public is a limited one. So, of course, is Mr. Bradshaw, degree OS, but it is better than theirs. Mr. Debrett, degree OS book we read idly in an idle hour. When we read Mr. Bradshaw, degree OS, it is because we feel that we simply must, and that perhaps is the surest test of genius. 1. Degree Infinity Bradshaw, degree OS General Railway and Steam Navigation Guide for Great Britain and Ireland, degree plus or minus. It is no wonder that in some circles Mr. Bradshaw holds a position comparable only to the position of Homer. I once knew an elderly clergyman who knew the whole of Mr. Bradshaw, degree OS book by heart. He could tell you without hesitation the time of any train from anywhere to anywhere else. He looked forward each month to the new number as other people look forward to the new numbers of magazines. When it came, he skimmed eagerly through its pages and noted with a fierce excitement that they had taken off the 5.30 from Larne Harbour, or that the 7.30 from Galashiels was stopping that month at Shank End. He knew all the connections, he knew all the restaurant trains, and, if you mentioned the 6.15 to Little Buxton, he could tell you offhand whether it was a Saturdays only or a Saturdays accepted. This is the exact truth, and I gathered that he was not unique. It seems that there is a Bradshaw cult, there may even be a Bradshaw club, where they meet at intervals for Bradshaw dinners, after which a paper is read on degree Infinity changes I have made, with some observations on Salisbury, degree plus or minus. I suppose some of them have first editions, and talk about them very proudly, and they have hot academic discussions on the best way to get from Barnum Junction to Cardiff without going through Bristol. Then they drink the toast of degree Infinity, the master degree plus or minus, and go home in omnibuses. My friend was a schoolmaster and took a small class of boys in Bradshaw. He said they knew as much about it as he did. I call that corrupting the young. But apart from this little band of admirers, I am afraid that the book does suffer from neglect. Who is there, for example, who has read the degree Infinity directions, degree plus or minus on page 1, where we are actually shown the method of reading tentatively suggested by the author himself? The ordinary reader, coming across a certain kind of thin line, lightly dismisses it as a misprint or a restaurant car on Fridays. If he had read the preface, he would know that it meant a shunt. He would know that a shunt means that passengers are enabled to continue their journey by changing into the next train. Whether he would know what that means, I do not know. The best authorities suppose it to be a poetical way of saying that you have to change what is called an euphemism. No, you must not neglect the preface, and you must not neglect the appendix on hotels. As sometimes happens in works of a philanthropic character, Mr. Bradshaw, degree OS appendix has a human charm that is lacking in his treatment of his principal theme, the arrival and departure of trains. To the careful student it reveals also a high degree of organization among his collaborators, the hotel managers. It is obvious, for example, that at Bournemouth there must be at least one hotel which has the finest situation on the south coast. Indeed, one would expect to find that there was more than one. But no, Bournemouth Exceptionally fortunate in having at once the most select hotel on the South Coast, the largest and best appointed hotel on the South Coast, and the largest and most up-to-date hotel on the South Coast, has positively only one which has the finest position on the South Coast. Indeed, there is only one of these in the whole of England, though there are two which have the finest position on the East Coast. How is it, we wonder, that with so much variation on a single theme, such artistic restraint is achieved? It is clear, I think, that before they send in their manuscripts, the hotel managers must meet somewhere and agree together the exact terms of their contributions to the book. Degree Infinity, the George degree plus or minus agrees that for the coming year, Degree Infinity the Crown degree plus or minus shall have the Degree Infinity finest cuisine in England, Degree plus or minus provided Degree Infinity the George degree plus or minus may have Degree Infinity the most charming situation imaginable, Degree plus or minus, and so on. I should like to be at one of those meetings. This is the only theory which accounts for the curious phrases we find so frequently in the text, Degree Infinity underscore acknowledged underscore to be the finest degree plus or minus. Degree Infinity underscore admittedly underscore in the best position, Degree plus or minus who is it that acknowledges or admits these things? It must be the other managers at these annual meetings. Yes, the restraint of the collaborators is wonderful, and in one point only has it broken down. There are no fewer than 17 hotels with an unrivaled situation, and 2 of these are at Harrogate. For a small place like the British Isles, it seems to me that this is too many. For the rest, what imagery, what exaltation we find in this appendix. Dazed with imagined beauty, we pass from one splendid haunt to another. One of them has underscore 3 underscore golf courses of its own, several are underscore replete underscore with every comfort, and is not Degree Infinity replete degree plus or minus the perfect epithet? Here is a seductive 1 Degree Infinity on the sea edge, degree plus or minus, and another whose principal glory is its sanitary certificate. Another stands on the spot where Tennyson received his inspiration for the underscore idylls of the king underscore, and leaves it at that. In such a spot even Degree Infinity cuisine, degree plus or minus, is negligible. On the whole, from a literary point of view, the hydros come out better than the mere hotels. But of course they have unequaled advantages. With such material as dousing radiant heat, deep degree Orsonville, high frequency, and fango mud treatment, almost any writer could be sensational. What is high frequency, I wonder? It is clear, at any rate, that it would be madness to have a hydro without it. Well, I have selected my hotel on purely literary grounds. Or rather, I have selected 2. One is the place where they have the famous whirlpool baths. I shall go there at once. The manager of the other is a great artist, alone among the collaborators he understands simplicity. His contribution occupies a whole page, but there is practically nothing in it, nothing about cuisine or sanitation, or elegance, or comfort. Only, in the middle, he writes, quite simply, the most perfect hotel in the world. 5 inches. The great joke. They came and split a turkey with us on Boxing Day, 10 old soldiers, all out of a job, and only 10 legs between them. At least there were only 10 real legs, 2 of them had admirable imitation ones, and there were 16 excellent crutches. One of them was a miner of course, just now he is not mining much, perhaps that is why he seemed such a decent fellow, not at all violent or unpleasant, as one knows those practicing miners are. In fact, he reminded one of the miners one used to have in 1 degree OS platoon. Personally, I had the honor to have a whole platoon of them. Odd, ISN degree OT it, what capital fellows they were. Then, and how sadly they deteriorate when they get back to the mines. And it was odd, too, to hear this fellow say that he wished he could be back in the pits. I thought it was such a hateful and dangerous occupation. Yes, he was a nice miner, and so were the rest of them, very cheerful and respectful. But they didn't talk much at first. It was strangely difficult to find a safe subject. A few years ago, there would have been no difficulty, one would have talked workshop. Infinity, were you ever at Ypres? Infinity, I was on Gallipoli. Infinity, did you know Captain? And so on. We did a little of this, but it didn't go very well. In the dining room I keep a large colored photograph of the top of the Vimy Ridge on the day of a battle, you know the sort of thing. A hideous expanse of broken brown earth, that dreadful endless brown, with walls of smoke all round the horizon, shells bursting. In the middle distance, a battered trench in the foreground, with a few scattered men climbing out of it, gazing at the camera with expressionless faces, stretcher-bearers stooping on the parapet with their stretchers on their shoulders, odd men straying everywhere like lost sheep across the chocolate wilderness, looking aimless, looking small. Our guests were interested in that picture. It was wonderfully they said, but I felt that my usual remark about it was hardly suitable. Usually I tell my guests, and it is true, that I keep the picture as a kind of chastener, so that, when I am moved to complain at the troubles of this world, I can look at the picture and think, infinity, at any rate life is better than it was then. It was on the tip of my tongue to say so to the one-legged men when it came to me that for them, perhaps, at the moment, it wasn't true. After the turkey, and the pudding, and the crackers, and of course the beer, there was a slight thaw, but it was still very difficult. We tried to get them to sing. Only a few years ago, how easy it was. There was infinity, Tipperary, and many another rousing chorus. One was familiar in those times with the popular songs of the day. Unfortunately, these were the only songs we could produce now. And they didn't suit infinity keep the home fires burning. For instance, one didn't like to suggest that the chief minstrel of the one-legged men, who was also the chief comedian, disinterred from a heap of old music, infinity, your king and country need you, infinity, how would that go, Bert, he said. He said it without bitterness. I donned no why, and Bert O's answer was a silent grin, and one felt that Bert was right. Infinity, pack up your troubles in your old kit bag, infinity till the boys come home, all the old titles had a certain ironic underlining in that company. So we abandoned singing and we sat rather silent. There was some desultory conversation about the various infinity trades, to which a grateful state had trained them, and left it at that. There was some mild chaff of Bill, who had been too old, at 35, to be trained at all. Though not too old to learn musketry and lose a leg, but socially one felt the infinity party was drifting to disaster. It was saved, like many parties, by infinity shop, and not war shop, at least. Not exactly. What sort of shop will amuse 10 one-legged men? Why, one-legged shop, of course. Somebody said, infinity, is your leg comfortable? And that set the ball rolling. All the tongues wagged gleefully at once, all the technical details of one-leggedness, all the points of the various kinds of infinity legs, were brought out and tossed about, and hotly Contested as if we had been a number of golfers arguing the merits of different makes of putters. Some of us wear degree infinity stump socks, degree plus or minus, some of us can't degree OT stand the things. Some of us have degree infinity buckets, degree plus or minus, graphically described, which we can comfortably pad, and some of us have something else not nearly so good. Some of us are excited about the new degree infinity aluminium, degree plus or minus legs, 4 pounds lighter, which are soon to be available. Though we think it a terrible waste of money now that we have most of us got wooden ones. Here is a chance for the degree infinity economizing, degree plus or minus campaigners. Now then, Lord Rothermere, degree infinity, no aluminium legs, degree plus or minus, what a war cry. Altogether, it is an enthralling topic, there is no more awkwardness. And it is so amusing. Gad, how we laughed. There was the story of the man on the underground, a friend of ours. Someone trod on his false foot in the crowded train and, scrambling out in a hurry at a station, he found himself footless on the platform, while the train slid away, with the other fellow still standing on his foot. Ha, ha. How we laughed. But most of us are degree infinity above the knee, degree plus or minus, and that provides the best joke of all. You see, it all depends on the length of your stump, or degree infinity stump, degree plus or minus. If you have 5 inches left, you get an 80% pension. If you have more, you get less, even if it is only 5 1/4. That quarter of an inch makes all the difference, financially, though. Practically, it isn degree OT a great deal of use. How much of underscore you underscore got? Ah. You degree or unlucky. I degree OM 4 3/4 a near thing, eh? Peals of laughter. Degree infinity, you go back and have another inch off. Ho, 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 degree plus or minus we roll about in our chairs. Well, well, it degree OS a queer world, but the party was a great success after all. Reading without tears. I am teaching my daughter to read. It is very difficult. I cannot imagine how I learned to read myself. And when I look at the classic called underscore reading without tears underscore, which was, I understand, the foundation of my learning, I am yet more puzzled. The author of the book seems to believe strongly in original sin. In the preface I read, degree infinity tears must be shed by sinful little creatures subject to waywardness and deserving so many reproofs and corrections, degree plus or minus, but reading need not be such an occasion, and again, degree infinity observe their minutest actions, shut not your eyes to their sinful nature, nor believe them underscore incapable underscore of injustice or unkindness, of deceit, of covetousness, degree plus or minus. Perhaps this attitude explains the book. The author, degree OS, great idea, is underscore pictures underscore. A is like a hut with a window upstairs. B, on the other hand, is like a house with 2 windows, and little b is like a child with a wide frock coming to you. When I look at the pictures opposite, I see what the author means, but when I look at A and B and little b dispassionately by themselves, they suggest nothing at all to me. I simply cannot imagine the hut or the house or the child with the wide frock. Illustration. A is like a hut with a window upstairs. B is like a house with 2 windows. C is like an open mouth. Degree infinity, did we really, degree plus or minus? But let us look at some more. D is like an old man leaning on a stick. E is like a carriage with a little seat for the driver. G is like a monkey eating a cake. These are no better. Try as I may, I cannot see the little seat for the driver, or if I do, I see it just as vividly in F, but F is like a tree with a seat for a child. So I know that I am wrong. Now the pictorial memory is a valuable thing, and this pictorial method of teaching is no doubt valuable. But surely the pictures are of no real use unless there is some inevitable connection, however slight, between the form of the thing which it is desired to impress on the memory and the picture with which it is compared. My daughter, degree, OS. Imagination is, of course, much more vivid than mine, but, even so, I cannot imagine her looking coolly at the naked D and saying, degree, infinity yes, that is the old man leaning on a stick, degree plus or minus. She is more likely to say, degree, infinity that is the ground floor of the house with 2 windows, degree plus or minus, for she has a logical mind. And even if she does not remember the futile picture of the old man in a long shirt with his body bent at right angles to his legs, I donned degree OTCY, even then, she should connect him with D. There is nothing peculiarly D-ish about an old man. Yet it seems that I learned my alphabet in this way. I was a clever child, though sinful, I fear. Then we get on to words. The book follows the first principle of all teachers of languages in arranging that among the first words which the child learns there are as many words as possible which he will never use as a child, and, indeed, will probably never encounter in his entire career. Prominent among the first words in this book are such favorites as underscore pap underscore bin underscore hob underscore sob underscore and underscore sop underscore emmet underscore and underscore tome underscore. Each of these is printed 3 times, in a column, like this. Pap pan pap. Pap pan pap. Pap pan pap. Over each column is a little picture. When you are teaching the child underscore pap underscore, you say to her, degree, infinity pap, pap, do you see the pretty picture? That is a nanny with a baby in her lap. She is giving the baby a bottle. The bottle has pap in it. At least, it is not pap, really, but it is called pap for the purposes of the alphabet. You remember the letters. Don, degree, OTU? First there is a big P underscore U underscore no, like a man with a pack on his back. Then a little a, which is like a goose on the water. Then a little p, that is like another man coming to you with a pack on his back. Now we have it all in big letters. Maggie, read them out, degree plus or minus. Underscore Maggie underscore firmly underscore. K. Underscore U, underscore no, not K. Don, degree OT, you remember the picture? Underscore Maggie underscore yes, it was a nanny with a baby. Underscore U underscore no, not that one. It was a man with a pack on his back. P. Underscore Maggie underscore P. Underscore U underscore that, degree OS right. What comes next? Underscore Maggie underscore a goose on the water. Underscore U underscore no, that was a underscore little underscore a. This is a big letter. Don, degree OTU. Remember the dear little hut with the window upstairs? What letter was that? Underscore Maggie underscore B. Underscore U underscore no, that was a underscore house underscore, not a underscore hut underscore, and it had underscore 2 underscore windows. Don, degree OT, be so inaccurate. This is a big A. Now, what degree OS next? Underscore Maggie underscore a little house with a nanny inside. And there, degree OS a goose in the garden. And a baby. Underscore U underscore patiently underscore. No, this is another P. He is like a man with a pack on his back. PAP pap, there you are. That, degree OS, very good. Underscore Maggie underscore may I go into the garden now? Underscore U underscore yes. After that we learn sentences, and we raise in the child degree os mind a few more simple pictures of nature by repeating several times such statements as a pig had a fig. The author introduces us to Ben, who can _sup_sop. Ben, however, has a fat pup, and this pup cannot _sip_sop. My daughter, as I said, has a logical mind, and she immediately asked if Ben degree os pup could _sup_sop. She had perceived at once that if he could neither sip nor sup, the unfortunate animal was cut off from sop altogether. I said I didn't degree ot. No. I don't degree ot. But I see that Ben fed pole on bun, so I expect he gave the pup some too. It is a pity that the author could not provide pictures for some of the more striking incidents she records. Some of these would do. I met a cat in a bog. I sat in a bog. A hog is in a bog. A wig is in a bog. A pen is in a bog. I had a red bed. 10 men had a pen. I had a wet hen. I fed 10 men in a den. I should have thought that by appropriate illustrations the child might have been helped to a greater knowledge, not only of letters, but of life. But perhaps the most vivid of all these pages is page 99, which I produce verbatim. A bun is in a ton. A gun is in a ton. A dog is in a ton. A hog is in a ton. A pig is in a ton. A wig is in a ton. A hen is in a ton. A pen is in a ton. Note: let the child begin the book again, if it likes. What is a ton? Until I started out to educate my daughter I did not know. But then, I am not a sinful child. For hush. It seems to be a sort of _barrel_. I have drawn rather a jolly ton myself. If we could only look back into our childish minds and really recapture the impressions of life, if any, which inhabited us at the end of a day when we had triumphantly mastered page 99 and similar pages, and if one could set those impressions down in print, what rich romances might be born into the world. But is there no society for the protection of children from this sort of book? Illustration: degree infinity. A pen is in a ton, degree plus or minus. On with the dance. I have been to a dance, or rather I have been to a fashionable restaurant where dancing is done. I was not invited to a dance there. Are very good reasons for that. I was invited to dinner. But many of my fellow guests have invested a lot of money in dancing. That is to say, they keep on paying dancing instructors to teach them new tricks, and the dancing instructors, who know their business, keep on inventing new tricks. As soon as they have taught everybody a new step, they say it is unfashionable and invent a new one. This is all very well, but it means that, in order to keep up with them and get your money degree os worth out of the last trick you learned, it is necessary, during its brief life of respectability, to dance at every available opportunity. You dance as many nights a week as is physically possible. You dance on weekdays and you dance on Sundays. You begin dancing in the afternoon and you dance during tea in the coffee rooms of expensive restaurants, whirling your precarious way through littered and abandoned tea tables, and at dinner time you leap up madly before the fish and dance like variety artistes in a highly polished arena before a crowd of complete strangers eating their food, or, as if seized with an uncontrollable craving for the dance, you fling out after the joint for one wild gallop in an outer room, from which you return, perspiring and dyspeptic, to the consumption of an ice pudding, before dashing forth to the final orgy at a picture gallery where the walls are appropriately covered with pictures of barbaric women dressed for the hot weather. That is what happened at this dinner. As soon as you had started a nice Conversation with a lady. A sort of roaring was heard without, her eyes gleamed, her nostrils quivered like a horse planning a gallop, and in the middle of one of your best sentences she simply faded away with some horrible man at the other end of the table who was probably degree infinity the only man in London who can do the double straddle properly, degree plus or minus. This went on the whole of the meal, and it made connected conversation quite difficult. For my own part one went on eating, and when I had properly digested I went out and looked at the little victims getting their money degree os worth. From the door of the room where the dancing was done a confused uproar overflowed, as if several men of powerful physique were banging a number of pokers against a number of saucepans, and blowing whistles, and occasional catcalls, and now and then beating a drum and several sets of huge cymbals, and ceaselessly twanging at innumerable banjos, and at the same time singing in a foreign language and shouting curses, or exhortations or street cries, or imitating hunting calls and the cry of the hyena, or uniting suddenly in the war whoop of some pitiless Sudan tribe. It was a really terrible noise. It hit you like the backblast of an explosion as you entered the room. There was no distinguishable tune. It was simply an enormous noise. But there was a kind of savage rhythm about it which made one think immediately of Indians and fierce men and the native camps one used to visit at the Earl degree OS Court exhibition. And this was not surprising. For the musicians included one genuine Negro and 3 men with their faces blacked, and the noise and the rhythm were the authentic music of a Negro village in South Africa, and the words which some genius had once set to the noise were an exhortation to go to the place where the Negroes dwelt. To judge by their movements, many of the dancers had, in fact, been there, and had carefully studied the best indigenous models. They were doing some quite extraordinary things. No 2 couples were doing quite the same thing for more than a few seconds, so that there was endless variety of extraordinary postures. Some of them shuffled secretly along the edges of the room, their faces tense, their shoulders swaying like reeds in a light wind, their progress almost imperceptible. They did not rotate, they did not speak, but sometimes the tremor of a skirt or the slight stirring of a patent leather shoe showed that they were indeed alive and in motion, though that motion was as the motion of a glacier, not to be measured in minutes or yards. And some in a kind of fever rushed hither and thither among the thick crowd, avoiding disaster with marvelous dexterity, and sometimes they revolved slowly, and sometimes quickly, and sometimes spun giddily round for a moment like gyroscopic tops. Then they too would be seized with a kind of trance, or it may be with sheer shortness of breath, and hung motionless for a little in the center of the room, while the mad throng jostled and flowed about them like the leaves in autumn round a dead bird. And some did not revolve at all, but charged straightly up and down. And some of these thrust their loves forever before them, as the Prussians thrust the villagers in the face of the enemy, and some forever navigated themselves backwards like moving breakwaters to protect their darlings from the rude, precipitate seas. Some of them kept themselves as upright as possible, swaying slightly like willows from the hips, and some of them contorted themselves into strange and angular shapes, now leaning perilously forward till they were practically lying upon their terrified partners, and now bending sideways as a man bends who has water in one ear after bathing. All of them clutched each other in a close and intimate manner, but some, as if by separation to intensify the joy of their union, or perhaps to secure greater freedom for some particular spacious man, oeuvre, would part suddenly in the middle of the room and, clinging distantly with their hands, execute a number of complicated sidesteps in opposite directions, or aim a series of vicious kicks at each other, after which they would reunite in a passionate embrace and gallop in a frenzy round the room or fall into a trance or simply fall down. If they fell down, they lay still for a moment in the fearful expectation of death, as men lie who fall under a horse, and then they would creep on hands and knees to the wall through the whirling and indifferent crowd. Watching them, you could not tell what any one couple would do next. The most placid and dignified among them might at any moment fling a leg out behind them and almost kneel in mutual adoration, and then, as if nothing unusual had happened, shuffle onward through the press. Or, as though some electric mechanism had been set in motion, they would suddenly lift a foot sideways and stand on one leg, poised pathetically, as if waiting for the happy signal when they might put the other leg down. These men looked very sad, and I wished that the Medusa *OS head might be smuggled somehow into the room for their attitudes to be imperishably recorded in cold stone. It would have been a valuable addition to modern sculpture. Upon this whirlpool I embarked with the greatest misgiving and a strange young woman clinging to my person. The noise was deafening. The 4 black men were now all shouting at once and playing all their instruments at once, working up to the inconceivable uproar of the finale, and all the dancers began to dance with a last desperate fury. Bodies buffeted one from behind, and while one was yet looking round in apology or anger, more bodies buffeted one from the flank. It was like swimming in a choppy sea, where there is no time to get the last wave out of your mouth before the next one hits you. Close beside us a couple fell down with a great crash. I looked at them with concern, but no one else took any notice. On with the dance. Faster and faster the black men played. I was dimly aware now that they were standing on their chairs, bellowing, and fancied the end must be near. Then we were washed into a quiet backwater, in a corner. And from here I determined never to issue until the last banjo should indeed sound. Here I sidled vaguely about for a long time, hoping that I looked like a man preparing for some culminating feat, a sidestep or a buzz or a double jazz spin or an ordinary fall down. The noise suddenly ceased. The 4 black men had exploded. Infinity, very good exercise. +or-, my partner said. Infinity, quite. +or-, said I. The autobiography. John Anthony Grunch was one of the mildest, most innocent men I ever knew. He had a wife to whom he was devoted with a dog-like devotion. He went to church, he was shy and reserved, and he held a mediocre position in a firm of envelope makers in the city. But he had a romantic soul, and whenever the public craving for envelopes fell, often that is seldom, he used to allay his secret passion for danger, devilry, and excitement by writing sensational novels. One of these was recently published, and John Anthony is now dead. The novel did it. Yet it was a very mild sort of infinity shocker, +or- about a very ordinary murder. The villain simply slew one of his typists in the counting house with a sword umbrella and concealed his guilt by putting her in a pillar box. But it had infinity power, +or-, and it was very favorably reviewed. One critic said that infinity, the author, who was obviously a woman, had treated with singular delicacy and feeling the ever-urgent problem of female employment in our great industrial centers. +or-, another said that the book was infinity, a brilliant burlesque of the fashionable type of detective fiction. +or-, another wrote that infinity, it was a conscientious analysis of a perplexing phase of agricultural life. +or-, John thought that must refer to the page where he had described the allotments at Shepherd *OS Bush. But he was pleased and surprised by what they said. What he did not like was interpretation offered by his family and his friends, who at once decided that the work was the autobiography of John Anthony. You see, the scene was laid in London, and John lived. In London, the murdered girl was a typist, and there were two typists. In John's OS office, and, to crown all, the villain in the book had a boarhound, and John himself had a Skye Terrier. The thing was as plain as could be. Men he met in the city said, Infinity how OS that boarhound of yours, plus or minus, or Infinity, I like that bit where you hit the policeman. When did you do that? Plus or minus Infinity _ you comma, plus or minus mark you. Old friends took him aside and whispered. Infinity very sorry to hear you Don. OT hit it off with Mrs. Grunch, I always thought you were such a happy couple. Plus or minus his wife, OS family said, Infinity poor Gladys. What a life she must have had, plus or minus his own family said, Infinity poor John. What a life she must have led him to make him go off with that adventuress, plus or minus. Several people identified the adventuress as Miss Crook, the secretary of the local Mother OS Welfare League, of which John was a vice president. The fog of suspicion swelled and spread and penetrated into every cranny and level of society. No servants would come near the house, if they did they soon stumbled on a copy of the Shocker while doing the drawing room, read it voraciously and rushed screaming out of the front door. When he took a parcel of washing to the post office, the officials refused to accept it until he had opened it and shown that there were no bodies in it. The animal kingdom is very sensitive to the suspicion of guilt. John noticed that dogs avoided him, horses neighed at him, earwigs fled from him in horror, caterpillars madly spun themselves into cocoons as he approached, owls hooted, snakes hissed. Only Mrs. Grunch remained faithful. But one morning at breakfast, Mrs. Grunch said, Infinity, pass the salt, please. John, plus or minus John didn't OT here. He was reading a letter. Mrs. Grunch said. Again, Infinity pass the salt, please, John, plus or minus John was still engrossed. Mrs. Grunch wanted the salt pretty badly, so she got up and fetched it. As she did so she noticed that the handwriting of the letter was the handwriting of a woman. Worse, it was written on the embossed paper of the Mother OS Welfare League. It must be from Miss Crook. And it was it was about the annual outing. Infinity plus or minus said Mrs. Grunch. I am afraid that Infinity plus or minus doesn't OT really convey to you the sort of sound she made, but you must just imagine. Infinity So that OSYU. Couldn't OT pass the salt, plus or minus. Mad with rage, hatred, fear, chagrin, pique, jealousy, and indigestion. John rushed out of the house and went to the office. At the door of the office, he met one of the typists. He held the door open for her. She simpered and refused to go in front of him. Being still mad with rage, hatred, chagrin, and all those other things, John made a cross gesture with his umbrella. With a shrill, shuddering shriek of Infinity murder, plus or minus the girl cantered violently down Ludgate Hill and was never seen again. Entering the office, John found two detectives waiting to ask him a few questions in connection with the Newcastle pigsty murder, which had been done with some pointed instrument, probably an umbrella. After that the Daily Horror rang up and asked if he would contribute an article to their series on Infinity is bigamy worth while, plus or minus. Having had enough rushing for one day, John walked slowly out into the street, trying to remember the various ways in which his characters had committed suicide. He threw himself over the embankment wall into the river, but fell in a dinghy which he had not noticed. He bought some poison, but the chemist recognized his face from a photograph in the literary column of the druggist and gave him ipecacuanha, none of. You can spell that. He thought of cutting his throat, but broke his thumbnail trying to open the big blade, and gave it up. Desperate, he decided to go home. At Victoria, he was hustled along the platform on the pretense that there is more room in the rear of trains. Finally he was hustled onto the line and electrocuted. And everybody said, degree infinity, so it was true, degree plus or minus. The white spat. When it is remembered how large a part has been played in history by revolutionary and political songs, it is both lamentable and strange that at the present time only one of the numerous political faiths has a hymn of its own, degree infinity, the red flag, degree plus or minus, the author of the words owes a good deal, I should say, to the author of Degree Infinity Rule Britannia, degree plus or minus, though I am inclined to think he has gone one better. The tune is that gentle old tune which we used to know as Degree Infinity Maryland, degree plus or minus, and by itself it rather suggests a number of tired sheep waiting to go through a gate than a lot of people thinking very redly. I fancy the author realized this, and he has got over it by putting in some good powerful words like degree infinity scarlet, degree plus or minus, degree infinity traders, degree plus or minus, degree infinity flinch, degree plus or minus, and degree infinity dungeon, degree plus or minus, whenever the tune is particularly sheepish. The effect is effective. Just imagine if the middle classes union could march down the middle of the Strand singing that fine chorus. Degree infinity, then raise the scarlet standard high. Beneath its shade we degree OLL live and die. Though cowards flinch and traitors sneer, we degree OLL, keep the red flag flying here, degree plus or minus. Well, I have set myself to supply some other parties with songs, and I have begun with degree infinity, the white spat, degree plus or minus, which is to be the party hymn of the high Tories, if any. I have written it to the same tune as degree infinity, the red flag, degree plus or minus, because, when the lion finally does lie down with the lamb, it will be much more convenient if they can bleat and roar in the same meter, and I shall hope to hear Mr. Robert Williams and Lord Robert Cecil singing these two songs at once one day. I am not wholly satisfied with degree infinity, the white spat, degree plus or minus, but I think I have caught the true spirit, or, at any rate, the proper inconsequence of these things. The white spat. Maryland _. The spats we wear are pure as snow. We are so careful where we go. We don't degree go near the vulgar bus, because it always splashes us. Chorus we take the road with trustful hearts, avoiding all the messy parts, however dirty you may get. We degree OLL, keep the white spat spotless yet. At night there shines a special star to show us where the puddles are. The crossing sweeper sweeps the floor. That degree OS, what the crossing sweeper degree OS for. Chorus, then take the road, etc., etc. I know it doesn't degree OT look much, just written down on paper, but you try singing it and you'd degree OLL find you degree or carried away. Of course there ought to be an international verse, but I degree I'm afraid I can't degree OT compete with the one in my model. Degree infinity look round, the Frenchman loves its blaze. The sturdy German chants its praise. In Moscow, degree OS vaults its hymns are sung. Chicago swells the surging throng, degree plus or minus. Degree infinity from Russia, degree OS snows to Africa, degree OS sun. The race of spat riots is one. One faith unites their alien blood. Their degree OS, nothing to be said for mud, degree plus or minus. Now we have the song of the wee freeze. I wanted this to be rather pathetic, but I'd degree not sure that I haven't degree overdone it. The symbolism, though, is well nigh perfect, and, after all, the symbolism is the chief thing. This goes to the tune of degree infinity Annie Laurie degree plus or minus. The old black brawly. Annie Laurie _ Under the old umbrella. Beneath the leaking gamp. Wrapped up in woolly phrases. We battle with the damp. Come, gather round the gamp. Observe, it is pre-war. And beneath the old black brawly. There degree room for several more. Shameless calumniators. Calumniate like mad. Detractors keep detracting. It really is too bad. It really is too bad. To show weak degree or not quite dead. We wave the old black brawly. And hit them on the head. Then we have the Nationalist Party. I am rather vague about the National Party, but I know they are frightfully military, and they keep on having mass rallies in Kensington complete with drums, I expect. Where all the masses come from I don't degree quite know, as a prolonged search has failed to reveal anyone who knows anyone who is actually a member of the party. Everybody tells me, though, that there is at least one Brigadier General, Tempe, mixed up with it, if not two, and at least one Lord, though possibly one of the Brigadiers is the same as the Lord, but after all they represent the nation, so they ought to have a song. They have nothing but degree infinity rule Britannia, degree plus or minus now, I suppose. Their song goes to the tune of degree infinity the British Grenadiers, degree plus or minus I have written. It is a duet, but no doubt other parts could be added if the occasion should ever arise, too. I understand that it has not arisen. On the contrary. The National the British Grenadiers _ Some talk of coalitions. Of Tories and all that. They are but cheap additions. Of the one and only Nat. Our party has no equals. Though of course it has its peers. With a toe, row. For the British Brigadiers. You have no idea how difficult it is to write down the right number of rows first time, however I dare say the general wouldn't degree mind a few extra ones. We represent the nation. As no one else can do. Without exaggeration. Our membership is two. We rally in our masses. And give 3 hearty cheers. With a toe, row. For the National Brigadiers. There could be a great deal more of that, but perhaps you have had enough. Of course, if you don't degree think the poetry of my songs is good enough, I shall just have to quote some of degree infinity, the international degree plus or minus words to show you that it degree the tune that matters. Here you are. Degree infinity arise. Ye starvelings from your slumbers. Arise. Ye criminals of want. For reason in revolt now thunders. And at last ends the age of cant, degree plus or minus. If people can grow excited singing that, my songs would send them crazy. Then there is the coalition. I have had a good deal of difficulty about this, but I think that at last I have hit the right note. All my first efforts were too dignified. This goes to a darky tune. The Piebald Mare. Camptown ladies _ Downtown darkies all declare. Doo-dah. There never was a hoss like the Piebald Mare. Doo-dah day. One half dark and the other half pale. Doo-dah. 2 fat heads and a great big tail. Doo-dah day. Chorus gwine to run all night. Gwine to run all day. I put my money on the Piebald Mare. Because she run both way. Little old Dave he ride that hoss. Doo-dah. Where degree oll she be if he takes a toss. Doodah, doodah day. De people try to push him off. Doodah, doodah. De more they push, de more he scoff. Doodah, doodah day. Underscore chorus, underscore gwine to run, etc. Over the largest fence they bound. Doodah, doodah. Things exploding all around. Doodah, doodah day. One fine day dat house will burst. Doodah, doodah. But little old Dave he degree oll underscore walk underscore in first. Doodah, doodah day. Underscore chorus, underscore gwine to run, etc. Once again, merely written down, the words do underscore not underscore thrill, but I hope none of the parties will definitely reject these hymns till they have heard them actually sung. If necessary, I will give a trial rendering myself. The other day, when we were playing charades and had to act we did underscore Lloyd George and the coalition underscore, and the people who were acting the coalition sang the above song with really wonderful effect. It is true that the other side thought we were acting underscore Legion and the Gadarene swine underscore, but that must have been because of something faulty in our makeup. The sound of this great anthem was sufficiently impressive to make one long to hear the Real Coalition shouting it all along Downing Street. It is a solo with chorus, you understand, and the coalition come in with a great roar of excitement and fervor on underscore doodah. Doodah, underscore. Yes, I like that. The art of drawing. It is commonly said that everybody can sing in the bathroom, and this is true. Singing is very easy. Drawing, though, is much more difficult. I have devoted a good deal of time to drawing, one way and another. I have to attend a great many committees and public meetings, and at such functions I find that drawing is almost the only art one can satisfactorily pursue during the speeches. One really cannot sing during the speeches, so as a rule I draw. I do not say that I am an expert yet, but after a few more meetings I calculate that I shall know drawing as well as it can be known. The first thing, of course, is to get on to a really good committee. And by a good committee, I mean a committee that provides decent materials. An ordinary departmental committee is no use, generally. They only give you a couple of pages of lined foolscap and no white blotting paper, and very often the pencils are quite soft. White blotting paper is essential. I know of no material the spoiling of which gives so much artistic pleasure except perhaps snow. Indeed, if I was asked to choose between making pencil marks on a sheet of white blotting paper and making footmarks on a sheet of white snow, I shall be in a quandary. Much of the best committees from the point of view of material are committees about business which meet at business premises shipping offices, for choice. One of the Pacific lines has the best white blotting paper I know, and the pencils there are a dream. I am sure the directors of that firm are drawers, for they always give you two pencils, one hard for doing noses, and one soft for doing hair. Illustration, Figure 1. When you have selected your committee, and the speeches are well away, the drawing begins. Much the best thing to draw is a man. Not the chairman, or Lord Pommery Quint, or any member of the committee, but just a man. Many novices make the mistake of selecting a subject for their art before they begin. Usually they select the chairman, and when they find it is more like Mr. Gladstone, they are discouraged. If they had waited a little, it could have been Mr. Gladstone officially. Illustration, Figure 2. As a rule, I begin with the forehead and work down to the chin, Figure 1. When I have done the outline, I put in the eye. This is one of the most difficult parts of drawing. One is never quite sure where the eye goes. If, however, it is not a good eye, a useful tip is to give the man spectacles. This generally makes him a clergyman, but it helps the eye Figure 2. Now you have to outline the rest of the head, and this is rather a gamble. Personally, I go in 4_strong_ heads. Figure 3. I am afraid it is not a strong neck. I expect he is an author, and is not well fed. But that is the worst of strong heads, they make it so difficult to join up the chin and the back of the neck. The next thing to do is to put in the ear, and once you have done this, the rest is easy. Ears are much more difficult than eyes. Figure 4. Illustration, Figure 3. I hope that is right. It seems to me to be a little too far to the southward. But it is done now. And once you have put in the ear you can't go back, not unless you are on a_very_good committee which provides India rubber as well as pencils. Now I do the hair. Hair may either be very fuzzy and black or lightish and thin. It depends chiefly on what sort of pencils are provided. 4. Myself, I prefer black hair, because then the parting shows up better. Figure 5. Illustration, Figure 4. Illustration, Figure 5. Until one draws hair, one never realizes what large heads people have. Doing the hair takes the whole of a speech, usually even one of the chairman-OS speeches. Illustration, Figure 6. This is not one of my best men. I am sure the ear is in the wrong place. And I am inclined to think he ought to have spectacles. Only then he would be a clergyman, and I have decided that he is Sir Philip Gibbs at the age of 20. So he must carry on with his eye as it is. I find that all my best men face to the west. It is a curious thing. Sometimes I draw two men facing each other, but the one facing east is never good. There, you see, Figure 6? The one on the right is a Bolshevik. He has a low forehead and beetling brows, a most unpleasant man. Yet he has a powerful face. The one on the left was meant to be another Bolshevik, arguing with him. But he has turned out to be a lady, so I have had to give her a infinity bun, plus or minus she is a lady solicitor, but I don't know how she came to be talking to the Bolshevik. Here are some more men facing east. They are all a little unconvincing, you see. Illustration. When you have learned how to do men, the only other things in drawing are perspective and landscape. Illustration, Figure 7. Perspective is great fun. The best thing to do is a long French road with telegraph poles. Figure 7. I have put in a fence as well. Unstable, I fear. Landscape is chiefly composed of hills and trees. Trees are the most amusing, especially fluffy trees. Here is a landscape, Figure 8. Somehow or other a man has got into this landscape, and, as luck would have it, it is Napoleon. Apart from this, it is not a bad one. Illustration, Figure 8. But it takes a very long speech to get an ambitious piece of work like this through. There is one other thing I ought to have said. Never attempt to draw a man front face. It can't be done. About bathrooms. Of all the beautiful things which are to be seen in shop windows, perhaps the most beautiful are those luxurious baths in white enamel, hedged around with attachments and conveniences in burnished metal. Whenever I see one of them I stand and covet it for a long time. Yet even these super baths fall far short of what a bath should be, and as for the perfect bathroom, I question if anyone has even imagined it. The whole attitude of modern civilization to the bathroom is wrong. Why, for one thing, is it always the smallest and barest room in the house? The Romans understood these things. We don't I have never yet been in a bathroom which was big enough to do my exercises in without either breaking the light or barking my knuckles against a wall. It Ought to be a underscore big underscore room and opulently furnished. There ought to be pictures in it, so that one could lie back and contemplate them. A picture of troops going up to the trenches, and another picture of a bus queue standing in the rain, and another picture of a windy day with some snow in it. Then one would really enjoy 1 degree OS baths. And there ought to be rich rugs in it and profound chairs. One would walk about in bare feet on the rich rugs while the bath was running. And one would sit in the profound chairs while drying the ears. The fact is, a bathroom ought to be equipped for comfort, like a drawing room, a good, full, velvety room, and as things are it is solely equipped for singing. In the drawing room, where we want to sing, we put so many curtains and carpets and things that most of us can't degree OT sing at all, and then we wonder that there is no music in England. Nothing is more maddening than to hear several men refusing to join in a simple chorus after dinner, when you know perfectly well that every one of them has been singing in a high tenor in his bath before dinner. We all know the reason, but we don't degree OT take the obvious remedy. The only thing to do is to take all the furniture out of the drawing room and put it in the bathroom, all except the piano and a few cane chairs. Then we shouldn't degree OT have those terrible noises in the early morning, and in the evening everybody would be a singer. I suppose that is what they do in Wales. But if we cannot make the bathroom what it ought to be, the supreme and perfect shrine of the supreme moment of the day, the one spot in the house on which no expense or trouble is spared, we can at least bring the bath itself up to date. I don't degree OT now, as I did, lay much stress on having a bath with 15 different taps. I once stayed in a house with a bath like that. There was a hot tap and a cold tap, and hot seawater and cold seawater, and plunge and spray and shower and wave and flood, and 1 or 2 more. To turn on the top tap you had to stand on a stepladder, and they were all very highly polished. I was naturally excited by this, and an hour before it was time to dress for dinner, I slunk upstairs and hurried into the bathroom and locked myself in and turned on all the taps at once. It was strangely disappointing. The seawater was mythical. Many of the taps refused to function at the same time as any other, and the only 2 which were really effective were wave and flood. Wave shot out a thin jet of boiling water which caught me in the chest, and flood filled the bath with cold water long before it could be identified and turned off. No, taps are not of the first importance, though, properly polished, they look well. But no bath is complete without one of these attractive bridges or trays where one puts the sponges and the soap. Conveniences like that are a direct stimulus to washing. The first time I met one, I washed myself all over 2 or 3 times simply to make the most of knowing where the soap was. Now and then, in fact, in a sort of bravado, I deliberately lost it, so as to be able to catch it again and put it back in full view on the tray. You can also rest your feet on the tray when you are washing them, and so avoid cramp. Again, I like a bathroom where there is an electric bell just above the bath, which you can ring with the big toe. This is for use when one has gone to sleep in the bath and the water is frozen, or when one has begun to commit suicide and thought better of it. Apart from these 2 occasions, it can be used for morsing instructions about breakfast to the cook, supposing you have a cook. And if you haven't degree OT a cook, a little bell ringing in the basement does no harm. But the most extraordinary thing about the modern bath is that there is no provision for shaving in it. Shaving in the bath I regard as the last word in systematic luxury. But in the ordinary bath it is very difficult. There is nowhere to put anything. There ought to be a kind of shaving tray attached to every bath, which you could swing in on. A flexible arm, complete with mirror and soap and strop, new blades. And shaving papers and all the other confounded paraphernalia. Then, I think, shaving would be almost tolerable, and there wouldn't be so many of these horrible beards about. The same applies to smoking. It is incredible that today in the 20th century there should be no recognized way of disposing of cigarette ends in the bath. Personally, I only smoke pipes in the bath. But it is impossible to find a place in which to deposit even a pipe so that it will not roll off into the water. But I have a brother-in-law who smokes cigars in the bath, a disgusting habit. I have often wondered where he hid the ends, and I find now that he has made a cache of them in the gas ring of the geyser. One day the ash will get into the burners and then the geyser will explode. Next door to the shaving and smoking tray should be the bookrest. I don't myself do much reading in the bath, but I have several sisters-in-law who keep on coming to stay, and they all do it. Few things make the leaves of a book stick together so easily as being dropped in a hot bath, so they had better have a bookrest, and if they go to sleep I shall set in motion my emergency waste mechanism, by which the bath can be emptied in malice from outside. Another of my inventions is the progress indicator. It works like the indicators outside lifts, which show where the lift is and what it is doing. My machine shows what stage the man inside has reached, the washing stage or the merely wallowing stage or the drying stage or the exercises stage. It shows you at a glance whether it is worthwhile to go back to bed or whether it is time to dig yourself in on the mat. The machine is specially suitable for hotels and large country houses, where you can find out by hammering on the door and asking, because nobody takes any notice. When you have properly fitted out the bathroom on these lines, all that remains is to put the telephone in and have your meals there, or rather, to have your meals there and not put the telephone in. It must still remain the one room where a man is safe from that. A criminal type. Today, I am making an 6-degree-ivation. As you may already have guessed, I am typlng this article myself zz. Instead of writing it, the idea is to save time and x beak pence, also to demonstrate demon betrike damn, to demonstrato that I can type /ust as well as any blessed girl 1f I give my mind to it degree plus or minus typlng, while you compose is really extraordinarily easy, though composing will you type is more difficult. I rather think my typing style is going to be different from my U6 style, but I dare say Noon will mind that much. Looking back, I see that we made rather a hash of that awful word extraordinaric. In the middle of a word like the tunny gets quite lost. Too high do I keep putting question marks instead of full stop as I wonder. Now you see I have put a full stop instead of a question mark. It never rains, but at yours. The typewriter to me has always been a mustery degree and even now that I have gained a perfect mastery over the machine in front of me, I have NPTTH3 faintest idea how it works percent and or instance. Why does the thing gaunt the top, the KLND of overhead railway arrangement, move along one pace after every word? I have exam AAA in the mechanism from all points of view, but there seems to be no reason at all why it should do. T-degree IIS. Damn, that degree, it keeps butting in, it is just like real life. Then there are all kinds of attractive device sound levers and buttons, of which is a mandel in itself, and does something 5G useful without letting on how it does it. For instance, on this machine, which is AMI/ET Image 7 AMIAN A Me/DGT, made of aluminum, and very light, so that you can carry it about on your degree holidays. there is that degree I again, and type out your poems on the moon immediately, and there is only one lot of keys for capitals and ordine ladders. When you want toto a capital, you press down a special key marked cap with the left hand and yo 7 press down the letter with the other, like that ABCD, no, ABCDEFG. How jolly that looks. As a matter of fact, takes a little getting into as all the letters on the keys are printed in capitals, so now and then one forgets. Top press down the special capit alth key. Not often, though. On the other hand, once 1 degree IAS got it down and has written anise nom e in capitals. Like LLOIJORGIT is very difficult to remember to put it down again. And then you get this sort of thing which spoils the look of the whole page. Or else instead of pressing down the key marked CAP1 presses down the key M marked FIG, and then instead of LLOYDGEORGE you find that you have written 96%, 394:3. This is very disheartening, and degree it is no wonder that typists are soft and soured in their youth. Apart from that, though, the key marked FIG is rather fun, since you can write such amusing things with it, things like percent and at and dear old and not to mention equals and. I find that in own's ordinary, I never get that word right. COR correspond in degree IC1 doesn't use expressions like at and percent nearly enough. Typewriting gives you a new idea of possibilities. Fifth English degree IH language, the more I look at percent the more beautiful it seems to be, and like the simple flowers of Englanditis. Per degree IAP's most beauty degree you'll, when seen in the mass, look at it. Percent. Percent. How would that do for a bathroom wallpaper? It could be produced very cheaply, and it called be called the CHER writes again, damn, I meant to put all that in capitals. I am afraid this article is spoilt now, but curse. But perhaps the most exciting thing a degree I out this Mac degree in is that you can, by pressing a little switch, suddenly write in red or green instead of in black. I don't understand how degree it is done, but it is very jolly. Businessness man see the device a GRET deal when writing to their members of parliament, in order to emphasize the point in which the in degree iastis is worse than anyone else's in degree iastis. When they come to we are ruined, they burst out into red, and when they come to we would remind you that ATTHE last eat degree ECTION you undertook, they burst into green. They are typists must enjoy doing those letters. With this arrangement, of course, one can do all kinds of capital wallpapers. 4. L'instance, what about a scheme of red degree I degree OS and black percent degree OS and green and degree OS? This sort of thing. Degree I percent 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 and degree I 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 degree I percent 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 and degree I and degree I and degree I and degree I and degree I. Many a poor man would be glad to degree Ive that in his parlor rather than what he has got now. Of course, you won't be able to appreciate the full beauty of the design, since I understand that the wretched paper which is going to print this has no red ink and no green INQ either, so you Must degree Ist imagine that the degree I degree Os are red and the and degree Os are green. It is extraordinary, what a terrible word, how backward in many ways. These up-to-date papers are www equals? Now how did that happen I wonder? I was experimenting with the backspace key, if that is what it is. For I don't think I shall use it again. I wonder if I am improving at this? Sometimes I think I am and so many times I think I am not. We have not had so many degree I degree Os lately, but I notice that there have been one or two misplaced Q degree Os and I cannot remember to write I in capital S. There it goes again. Oh curse, the typewriter itself is not wholly guiltless, like all Mac and Ines. It has a mind of its own and is of like pascience with ourselves. I could put that into Greek if only the machine was not so hopelessly modern. Its degree Os chief failing is that it cannot write M degree Os decently and instead of H it will keep putting that confounded degree I. As a matter of fact it has been doing M degree Os rather better today, but that is only its custiciousness and because I have been opening my shoulders whenever we have come to an M, or should it be a M? Who can tell? Little peculiarities like making indifferent M degree Os are very important and W degree yen. One is buying a typewriter 1s degree you'd make careful inquiries about. Think, because it is things of that sort which so often give criminals away. There is nothing a detective likes so much as a typewriter with an idiosks and idioink damn it an idiosyncrasy. For instance if I commit a murder is degree you'd not think of writing a litter about it with this of all typewriters bacusa because that fool ofa degree I would give me away at once. I dare say Scotland Yard have got specimens of my typewriting locked up in some pigeonhole already. If they degree I haven't it ought to be part of my dossier. I think the place of the typewriter in art is insufficiently appreciated. Modern art I understand is chiefly symbolical expression and straight lines. A typewriter can do straight lines with the underlining mark, and there are few more attractive symbols than the symbols I have used in this article. I merely threw out the suggestion. I don't think I shall do many more articles like this, it is too much like work. But I am glad I have got out of that degree I habit. A. P. degree I. The art of poetry.